Are you ready?
Let's go.
Now circling in the neutral zone.
Here's the pitch on the way. 36 yards for the win.
This.
Here comes a big chance. The shot.
Is
this the dagger?
The neutral zone.
Home run. Good.
This is as good as it gets.
Now, here's your host, two-time Paralympian, Brock Richardson.
What's going on? It's time for another edition of the Neutral Zone. It's been a long time since we've done this. I will fill you in as to why in moments, but I'll tell you what's coming up on this edition of the Neutral Zone. We are pleased to be joined by Deanna, who is here today to talk to us about the recently established North American Women's Sledge Hockey League. She is also here to promote an upcoming tournament that we'll talk about during the interview. Plus, we're going to talk about should there be a mercy rule in Major League Baseball. The panel will discuss that later on. That will be a very exciting conversation. I'm joined by Claire and Cameron. Here comes your headlines.
Neutral Zone headlines.
We congratulate Wheelchair Basketball Canada for a golden sweep at the inaugural 3-on-3 World Championships. Both the men's and women's programs came home with the gold medal. Congratulations to both teams.
Three-time Paralympian and global sport leader Chelsea Gotel has officially declared her candidacy for Vice President of the International Paralympic Committee. Ahead of the IPC governing board, elections will be in Seoul this September. Not only is she a 12-time Paralympic medalist, Chelsea has spent over 25 years shaping a stronger, more inclusive sports system.
I got to go to a Paralympic Games with Chelsea, so it's one of those things that I am greatly appreciative that she's still involved, and it's going to be great to see what she does in the future. We congratulate 18-year-old Canadian tennis player Vicky Mboko for winning her first ever WTA 1000 event at the Rogers National Bank Open. She came into the event ranked 85th. She left the event ranked 25. She is now going to be seated at the US Open, which begins in just over a week or so. I actually had the pleasure of meeting Vicky Mboko the other day at CBC as she was coming by to do some media availability. So always appreciate Vicky and what she's accomplished. I think she's going to accomplish big and great things in the sport. The other thing I just want to shout out as part of our headlines is the fact that the senior women's national team for wheelchair basketball came back from the Americas, and they came back with a bronze medal. That event just concluded for them, and the men are also now going to be competing. So we wish them well in their event, and we'll keep you posted in the weeks to come what the end result of that will be. People have been wondering where the podcast has been, and here's the short answer of where the podcast has been. I have had the opportunity to be a part of the Family Feud Canada production team, and so we record or film, as it were, Family Feud episodes most Saturday, Sunday, Monday, some Fridays. So we've had to sort of rejig our recording schedule. So that's why we have been MIA for a while. That and the civic holiday was around, and it just got a little chaotic. But we're back. We're changing our recording days to be Thursday or Friday, depending on the week. It'll be mainly Thursday, but you'll still get your episode released on Tuesdays as per usual. So we thank you for your patience, and those are your headlines for this week. If you want to get a hold of us on social, here's how you can do that.
And welcome back to the Neutral Zone broadcast booth.
Play ball!
We're set to get this ball game underway. The first pitch is brought to you by Brock Richardson's X account at Neutral Zone BR.
Strike!
Pitch and a strike. Hey, gang, why not strike up a chat with Claire Buchanan from the Neutral Zone? Find her on X at Neutral Zone CB. There's a swing of the chopper out to second base, right at Claire as she picks up the ball, throws it over to the first base for a routine play.
Out!
And fans, there's nothing routine about connecting with Cam and Josh from the Neutral Zone at Neutral Zone Cam J and at J Watson 200. Now that's a winning combination.
We are pleased and excited to be joined by Deanna, who is here today to talk about the recently established North American Women's Sledge Hockey League. She is also going to be telling us about an exciting upcoming tournament. Deanna, thanks so much for joining us. We're really looking forward to this interview.
Thanks for having me, Brock.
So, Deanna, can maybe you first start by telling us a little bit about how you got involved in women's sledge hockey / para ice hockey?
Sure. During the 2022 Paralympics, I was recovering from a medical issue that had me on bed rest, and I started watching the Paralympics. There was great coverage, and I kept switching back and forth between NBC and CBS so that I didn't miss anything. And to be honest, if I hadn't been on bed rest, I probably wouldn't have watched any of it, but I was totally into it. And at that point, I told my family I was going to play sled hockey. And I was 50, and my sons were in their 20s, and they just rolled their eyes at me and said, oh, whatever. And my goal really was only to play. I wanted to play one game, or I wanted to play one time. I wanted to go on the ice once. And then my family has a stand-up hockey game every year. My husband's family is so big, everybody comes and plays. And I wanted to play in that game. That was my goal. So it only took one time on the ice, and I fell in love. I was just like, this is a sport for me. It's so fun. And it was an amazing community. So now I'm involved in Metro Detroit Sled Hockey, which is a nonprofit that supports our players, and we do outreach and raise awareness. And then we also advocate for fair play in the sport. So due to my health, I don't get on the ice as much as I want, but I found other ways to be part of the community.
Yeah, the sledge hockey community in Detroit is just growing astronomically at the moment. And even Canadians over here crossing the border to play sledge hockey out there in Detroit. And so a year ago, the league started, the North American Women's Sledge Hockey League began. A lot to do with your efforts. Can you tell us a little bit more about how that got started? And obviously the spark came from watching the Paralympics at one moment, but what really got this league specifically started?
Sure. So it started because there was a group of coaches, parents, and female players that all had a common goal to see women's para ice hockey in the Paralympics. So we took a grassroots effort, and we started, we looked at where we could influence a sport. And the first part was really just to have some exhibition women's games in the co-ed tournaments that we were attending. And once that feedback came back that, yes, this is what people wanted, they wanted to have that opportunity, then we knew that we had the interest to move forward with a league. So we looked at USA and Canada, and I thought, you know what, we have different kind of strengths in the sport on and off the ice, and we could be so much stronger if we did this together versus just make it a USA league or a Canadian league. So we started that collaboration, and that gives us a stronger voice, and we have more influence over that ultimate goal to get in the Paralympics. So in April, we had our first tournament, and we held it here in Detroit. We had 60 players attend from all over, from Ontario in the north, Colorado in the west, New Hampshire in the east, and South Carolina. And those players ranged in age from 10 to 57. So the amazing thing for me at that tournament was the connections that people made and the stories and the friendships. I remember watching two people that I just thought they knew each other, and they only knew each other from social media. They had never met in person. And they were talking like they were old friends, and we left, and the one was like, I am so excited I met her. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, you guys are, no, this is the first time we met in person. So when those types of things happened, we knew that this was what was needed and it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I remember kind of going to the first few sledge hockey tournaments or pair ice hockey tournaments, way back in the day for me. And yeah, you make fast friends, and then you can't wait to see them at the next tournament, which is usually yearly or whatever the case is, and you get really excited. So it's good to see that happening with the women's pair ice hockey as well. Can you maybe tell us how many teams are currently in the league? And is there room for expansion at this time?
We definitely have room for expansion. So at that first tournament, we had 4 teams. Ontario brought a team, Ohio brought a team, and then the other 2 teams were made up of just people who maybe lived next to, in a general area, or they didn't live by anybody, but we added them to a team. So if we're really encouraging people to develop teams, and if their co-ed team doesn't have enough women, we're encouraging them to go for a regional, kind of like Ohio and Ontario did, where they come together. And with that said, if people need help to join a team, they can contact us and we'll help them find a team. About half of the people who came to our last tournament didn't have a team. They just came and they met people. And there's no rules about joining the league. So if a region comes together and they don't even get to practice before, that's okay. We had that happen this time. It's very flexible. The most important thing is to get started, because we have to start somewhere.
Yeah, I was at this previous tournament, and I have had the pleasure of just kind of jumping on board and helping to grow not just this league, but just kind of work alongside people like you to grow the women's game in general. And looking forward to 2026 at this next tournament. What are we looking forward to? Is growth in numbers, more athletes coming from different parts of the continent? What kind of details can we look forward to at this next tournament?
So I'm really excited about the next tournament because we learned a lot. We're planning on making this an annual tournament, and we're going to rotate locations because we want everybody to have the same opportunity to be involved. The next tournament will be in the spring. It'll be hosted in Ohio. And it'll be a 2-day tournament. We expect there to be more teams. We have Corinna Villegas is on our steering committee, and she's been working with several different organizations to promote sled hockey in Mexico and South America. So she is trying to get some players from those regions to join us as well. So it's a pretty amazing opportunity for girls and women of all ages to visit a new place and make some new friends all over the Americas.
So in your mind, and in my mind, it feels like the women's pair ice hockey game seems to be exploding right now, with a lot of people interested and wanting to join teams. In your opinion, what has made the women's game grow so quickly over a short period of time?
Yeah, I've noticed that. It's all over now. So I think women are making their own opportunities. We're not waiting for the national organization or someone else to make them for us. We're going out and making it happen. And having events like the women's tournament, it provides women the opportunity to meet other women with the same goals. And once you have women with the same goals together, we're pretty much unstoppable. We're coming together as one louder voice to let everyone know that women are interested in hockey, which people didn't necessarily think in the past. And whether we're starting our own para ice league or cheering on the university's women's hockey team or supporting the professional women's hockey league, we're showing up to support each other. And I think that's really important. It's not just women's sled hockey. We're out there promoting the Professional Women's League, and they're supporting us. I just saw this morning some props from them about the upcoming Worlds. And hopefully this is just the beginning of a snowball effect for women's para ice hockey.
That's exactly it. I think you worded it perfectly, of a snowball effect. And that's what it's been over the last couple of years of having organizations and leagues like the PWHL support us and really be a community, not just para hockey or sled hockey, but just women playing hockey. And it's this tournament and this league, I think, is really special and unique in the way that it's a first of its kind, in that it's a safe space and it's a comfortable space for women that, one, are trying new to the sport, but also women that are in that space of trying to make a national team at the same time. So, and that's what I saw at this past tournament, was there was girls that, this is my first year playing sled hockey, to I'm really trying to crack the national squad. And so it's this really cool tournament and space where, women can just kind of lift each other up. And like you said, it's not this separation between Canada and US. We're doing it together. And it's really cool to see, and I'm excited to see it move forward. But if there's a female athlete out there looking to get into sled hockey, and this league specifically in the upcoming tournament, how can they get involved? How can they reach you guys? What's the best way of getting connected with the North American Women's Sledge Hockey League?
So I would encourage people to try to start a team locally, regionally. Talk to your counterparts from the team that's, 100 miles away from you, and see how you guys can come together. But we are always willing to help coordinate that too. So that's what we're here for. And we're available. You can email us at nawomensledhockeyleague@gmail.com. We will, you can call us or email us if you want to volunteer, if you want to start a team, if you just have ideas, we're open to those. And you can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram at the North American Women's Sled Hockey League. And we've got some really fun things coming up with the Women's World Championships in August that we're going to have on social media. So come on out and join us.
It sounds really great. And we had a guest not that long ago that joined us. Her name was Emma, who was part of the able-bodied community, who basically said the same thing you did about how, if we don't take the initiative, nobody else will. And she was talking specifically about para swimming, but in all para sports really. So it's kind of refreshing that this movement seems to be happening, where people are like, you know what, if nobody else is going to do it, I'll do it myself. And I think that's really the best work that gets done from people, is the ones that say, no one else is doing it, so I'm going to take the space here and I'm going to run with it, and hopefully other people follow along.
I agree. And it's not that hard, really, when you start looking to find other people who want to make it happen too. That's the amazing thing.
This is a worldwide podcast, and we like to get the word out from everywhere we can. So this is an opportunity, and someone I know is going to that World Championships that you spoke about very, very soon. She actually got pulled out of retirement. We did a whole retirement episode not that long ago for Claire, and then I found out a couple of weeks later, I'm going to World Championships. So do we have to redo that retirement episode, Claire, again, or what?
The entire para hockey world was vastly confused for a few weeks, but equally happy to have me back and going to World Championships. So yeah, I'm excited to have that experience. And there is a couple of girls that were at that tournament last year that have cracked national team squads for the first time ever. So I'm really excited to see them. And I think that was my first time meeting a couple of them in person as well, like you shared earlier. So yeah, it's really cool. And I always say that like the para ice hockey is this like cool small community, but at the same time, it's huge. It's growing. It's worldwide. It's huge, and it's nice to see that growth happening on the women's side. Definitely, yeah.
I'm so excited to watch Claire and the other ladies that I met at the tournament. It's going to be fun.
Deanna, thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview. We greatly appreciate it, and I know this is not the only time we're going to be in touch, so we'll have you back on the program again down the line.
Great. Thank you.
That was Deanna talking to us about the North American Women's Sledge Hockey League, which, by the way, I'm an original and I like the sledge hockey still attached to things. So that shows my age and how long I've been around para ice hockey and sledge hockey. So we appreciate the time from Deanna. Always a great time to chat with those of us north of the border and the people that we still want to stay connected to. So we had a conversation that you just heard with Deanna, and I'm curious both of your feelings on how big this North American Women's League is overall for para sports. Let's start with Claire, given that you're part of this women para ice hockey movement, para sledge hockey. How big is this for you when you look at what we had with the conversation with Deanna?
It's one of its it's like one of a kind of opportunity here in North America. Develop women's para hockey collectively as a continent instead of developing within Canada, within US, and within Mexico. And just being able to collaborate on how to grow the game, connect, and make sure that we're hitting all of the right communities and getting exposure out there for the sport itself. So it was really cool to be part of the tournament last year. And we were the only Canadian group there. So it was fun, and it's nice to have it kind of go in different locations to kind of, again, hit different communities and make sure we're being accessible to as many teams and athletes as possible. And it really teeters in that gray area of grassroots and high performance. There was a good mixture of girls that have only been playing the sport a couple of years to women who are looking for extra ice and extra games to be able to develop and finally crack a national team squad, and to have conversations around now having athletes possibly come from Mexico as well. That's, I think, you can't go wrong putting a group together like that. And I'm grateful to be a part of it and on the board. And I was at that tournament, and Deanna approached me and just asked me flat out if I wanted to be on the board and help grow this thing. So yes, I sometimes say that my plate is not only full, but I think I have a second plate that I have stuff on. So I am constantly always trying to take stuff off my plate and get it down to one, but I can't say no to stuff like this.
I think it's a great thing to do. Deanna starting this, sometimes you got to have one person take the bull by the horn, and she's done that and is doing that. I think it's great for women's hockey. The more teams that you have, the more tournaments you have, that's how you get to the grassroots and get people involved and get women involved. So I think it's going to, progress over the years. Just like everything, it starts small and then word gets out and, it becomes huge. And I think that's what it's going to become in the years to follow.
Yeah, and stuff like this, I think we, a lot of the times, put all of the focus on just getting more athletes into the sport. I think it's really good to acknowledge that this gives another space for people who want to try coaching or other roles within the sport. So it's exciting to see how this will grow, not just for the athletes on the ice, but getting more women in roles like coaching.
For sure. I agree with everything you guys have said. I would also say to you guys where it starts, and we call this I call it the bite of para sports, because once you get bit by that proverbial bug, you kind of can't ignore it. You kind of just have to jump in, and you kind of have to jump in, 2 feet and say, I'm going to do this. And as I recall from doing that interview, Deanna told us that she wanted to try sledge hockey, as she referred to it, and she told her son that she was going to do that, and he basically laughed at her, and she said, I'm going to do it. And not only did she try the sport, but then she kind of grabbed it and said, I'm going to take this a step further, and I'm going to build this league, and I'm going to do this. And I think that's really where it comes from. You could talk about all these corporate people who have to have backing, and of course they have the funds in order to do that. But you need, Cameron, to start with. You need that person to be able to be like, I'm going to take this because I believe what I'm doing is right and necessary at the same time.
Yeah, 100%. Like I said, everything starts from somewhere. The Cruisers tournament, it started off as a smaller tournament. Nick grew, same as the London tournament. Those are the two tournaments that I'm familiar with. And they didn't have a lot of funding back in those days either. But what you do is you end up networking, talking with the city that you're holding the tournament in, and talking to the city of, London or Brampton or, wherever the North American Women's League tournament is as well. You talk to them and try to help on a municipal, maybe even a provincial or state level as well. And then you try to talk to corporate sponsors. But that's not going to happen year one. You've got to build those relationships and go from there. And you just got to do it for the love of the game when you first do it, and go from there. And the players, they really don't care about all the corporate stuff, and they don't care about, they just want to play. And they notice that they can't play because there's not enough funding. But everyone just wants to play.
Yeah, the big check mark that this first tournament had last year was that it was held in Detroit. And Detroit, over the last couple of years, has done a phenomenal job of investing in grassroots para hockey. And you see a handful of the national team guys have been playing in the league and playing with athletes out there in the States and getting more games in. And so to see that the Detroit organization putting just as much effort and detail and time into the women's para side is really exciting to see. And it's you're right. It takes one person or a handful of people to say, you know what, let's just do this. And I'm just going to give a lot of people their flowers talking about this thing. Shout out to the parents. A lot of the board members and a lot of people that helped put this thing together were parents of athletes that are, where do we have a space for our girls to play with other girls and have that connection with the women's game. So yeah, it takes volunteers, it takes people like Deanna, and it takes the parents of those athletes to not only help put a team, a league, events together like this, but they're the ones driving those athletes around too, right? So it takes a ton of people, but it takes one person usually saying, let's start this thing.
Yeah, and I think we'll go here with this. Do you guys think we're reaching a point where people are suggesting, why wait if nobody else is going to do push para sports? I'm going to do that, and I'm going to grab the bull by the horns. And I'm thinking of Deanna. We recently had Emma Sachs, who has done a lot of pushing for Swimming Canada, which, full disclosure, with Emma, when I was looking for that, doing that interview, I thought she was working with Swimming Canada. Okay, like I was looking for, oh yeah, I've done this and I've done that, and I'm working here, and now I'm pushing para sports. No, this is literally someone who's doing the thing for the sport, and that's what they're doing. And we're seeing the same thing sort of with Deanna. Is it literally a case of Cameron where it's like nobody else is doing it, so I'm going to do it? Or is there something else on top of that that comes to your mind of why people are taking this and saying, I'm going to do it, and that's it?
Usually in my observations, somebody takes the bull by the horn because somebody close to them, in this case, has a disability, and they want to be able to help out. But that's changing, because I don't think Emma, I don't think she has a disability. And yeah, I just think that people are now taking the bull by the horn. They're not as scared, to try to make something happen. In a lot of disabled sports, especially coaching, it's hard to find coaches to be able to, help them out. Growing up, I know this is going back probably to the 90s or the 80s. I don't even know if you two were alive back then, but it was like so hard to find a coach. And like one year you'd have one coach, and then one year you'd have another coach. And it's really hard to find coaching. So I just think that, coaching is so important to be able to find and to be able to, that's part of the grassroots, or part of like what you need in order for people to play. But obviously you need somebody to organize the tournament, and that can be very hard because that's a lot of work. And especially in today's society with social media and everything you can access by phone. So many people have so many responsibilities. They have kids, they have work, and can be accessible by phone where they have to do work. I applaud people that take that and do all of that, plus they organize something like this. To me, kudos to them. Like, hats off to them. I don't know how they do it.
My experience has been a handful of people are having similar conversations of this should start, and we should do this and that. And I don't think it's just one person speaking up and expressing that opinion of wanting to start something. I think it's a group of people that are having this conversation, but it's that one person that takes the initiative and puts it into action. And we can say the same thing for this show. You guys started this show, and the reason was because there wasn't anything like it out there at the time. And our stories and parasport stories and athletes and their journeys and the Paralympic movement needed a platform to be shared. And look where we are now. So you never know what it'll grow into. And all it takes is one person to collectively take all those voices that are saying, hey, we want this and we need this created, and just taking a chance and putting it into action.
Yeah, I wasn't planning on doing this, PSA for the neutral zone, but I look at this show right now. We are not funded. We are working at this as a 4-person tandem. We are sending out asks all over the place to be funded, but at the end of it, you have to do something for the love of what you're doing, whether it's a podcast, whether it's, for the betterment of something. And I think that's sort of the situation we're running into here, is that there's such a gap in the exposure of parasports, and there still is a gap in parasports going on 10 years of doing this podcast, that I think people just say, why is there a gap? Like, why are we continuing to bang our head in this gap and say this is not happening? Because I think for a while there were people that would say somebody else will do this, and it will be somebody else. Somebody else will take the bull by the horns, and it will be done. And I think people are realizing that that's not happening. So if you're leaving it to other people and thinking that other people are going to do it, and you step away and say, oh, somebody else will take care of that, and then you circle back 3, 4, 5, 6 months later and you realize, oh, the hole is still there. then you get even more frustrated, Claire, and you go, like, what gives here? Which gives people the drive of like, I've got to do something. I've got to put a light here. And there are people and corporates doing the thing, but we're still in that gap scenario where it's like, why are we here?
Yeah, it's advocacy is this interesting space that everyone's so fired up of, we need this to change and I want this to happen. But are you going to scream that at the top of your lungs? Are you going to beat down doors to make sure your voice is being heard? Or, like you said, are you just going to wait for someone else to say it? Or are you going to be the loud voice? So I wish that people had enough confidence and kind of hope in what they believe in to kind of stand strong on their soapboxes and yell into the mic of what they want changed, because you never know what one day can turn into, and what the next level of change looks like. So advocacy is tiring, and the Paralympic movement encompasses a lot of advocacy. We're having to speak up and speak out a lot more than able-bodied athletes and staff, and we sound like broken records talking about it sometimes. But if we don't continue to use our voices and really lean into what we want changed, it's not going to happen. We can't wait for someone else to do it, because you, like you said, you'll wake up 3 or 4 years down the road and in a blink of an eye, nothing has changed when you could have spoken up when you wanted to.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think that, there's different types of people. There are those ones that are loud and proud and advocate and are able to do it all the time. But then there's the ones that are quieter. They still advocate, but they just don't, do it loudly. They may be doing it behind the scenes and kind of networking with people and doing it that way. So there's many ways to be able to advocate, because as we all know, it can be very exhausting advocating as well. And sometimes you need to take a little break to kind of get those your strength back up and then start advocating again as well. So I give so much kudos I'll use Ken Hall as an example just because he's top of mind. He's been part of the cruisers and part of the field team and hockey program for so many years. And thanks to him, that's why it's still going. And, he's great because he has so much desire, and he's the type of person that is in a perfect position for him to be doing that.
By the way, speaking of Ken Hall, because I'm going to give Ken Hall the flowers, and then I'm going to pull back the curtain, and then we're going to talk about mainstream sports for a few minutes. But to give Ken his flowers, Ken came into it, yes, he had a stepson with a disability for a while, and nobody can deny that. But that stepson, Robert, is like long gone out of the Cruisers picture, long gone out of the Ken Hall picture. I don't want to speak about how much they may or may not communicate. None of my business. But the point is, this is a guy who literally could have easily 10, 12 years ago said, I'm done, and continues to bring up the Renees of the world and goes to meets and says, listen, I'm going to do this for the love of it. There's no biological connection. There's no like holding me back. Ken could have walked away from this years ago and is still dedicated to this day. And I think that deserves its flowers in and of itself. Either of you have any quick comment before I pull back the curtain on this a little bit?
It's funny when to think of like the what ifs, right? Like what if Ken did kind of step away at that time? Where would Canadian para throwing be right now? It's, you know, it's funny. It's fun to sometimes think about alternate universes of what if this happened.
So sorry, Cameron, were you going to comment?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, but in my experience of being an athlete and being an athlete for so many years and just at the grassroots level, like a coach leaves, but then somebody always comes on. And then another coach leaves, somebody always came back for the Cruisers. So, yeah, I don't like, somebody's always going to, I think, step up to the plate. It's just, are they going to be as good as Ken Hall, and how much dedication he has to putting that program together for both para ice hockey and for field events too. You know, what some of the other people are doing, like with the swimming. She's doing swimming as well as para, and I can't even keep up with her stories anymore to check to see how everyone's doing. And now what they're doing with the, the North American para ice hockey, it's great to see. It really is. And you need coaches to be able to, make it work, to be able to teach people, and not just about hockey, but just life lessons too. You learn so many life lessons too. So it's, I see, a lot of good coming in the future.
Sometimes it's also hard to walk away from what would be dedicated as your baby, what you built. And so some of these people that have built something, it's hard to walk away. I mean, I'm not going to get her to speak too longly on this, but I can think of somebody on this panel who told us a month ago or a month and a half ago, I'm retiring from para ice hockey, and lo and behold, you're going to go to World Championships out of need, and I'm sure partly desire, but it is, there's just, it's hard to pull away from that moment of like, this is something I built. And let's be fair, Claire, you were a person that helped build the women's Canadian national. Like, that's just the truth. So to walk away from that is not as easy as to say, okay, I've done it for X number of years, I'm going to retire, and that's it. Yeah,
I don't think walking away from being on the ice is one thing, but I can definitely say that myself included, former athletes and staff that have been part of that organization are still connected in some capacity. Like when someone invests that much time and themselves to an organization and a sport and something like that, you're forever invested in some way. You're forever connected in some way. And I will retire as being an athlete very soon. I can promise
I'm not falling for that again.
Mark my words.
Not falling for that again.
But I mean, my goal is to still forever be invested and connected to not only the Canadian national team, but women's para hockey in general. I have goals of doing play-by-play for World Championships, and I fully intend to continue to be in those spaces in whatever capacity I can be in, because I can't think of an athlete within para hockey that has 100% fully stepped away and doesn't dabble in something para hockey related.
And what's going to happen, Claire, is after this year, you'll be like, okay, I'm retiring. But then somebody's going to be injured on the team, and you're going to be the first woman up, and you'll be like, oh, just kidding, I'm back.
No, that next generation of athletes are unbelievable. They're healthy as a horse. I can tell you that. They are in way better shape than I was my first few years on the team.
Yeah. That's it's cool, for sure. I said I wanted to pull back the curtain, and I'm going to, just for context. We've been on our own since call it the beginning of May, and I remember having conversations with people outside but inside the circle, and I'm not going to name them because it would be unfair, but I'll tell you this. There would be people that would say to me, oh, now you guys are going to be unhinged. You're going to talk about, mainstream sports, and you're going to talk about this, and you're going to forgo para sports. And I said, nope, because we're still going to want to be funded in the future. And the basis of our funding will be para sports and shining the light. And this episode is a good example. We are now into, inclusive of the interview, 47-ish minutes of the podcast, and we've been talking about parasports and the growth of parasports. Nobody is holding a gun to my head and saying, you have to talk about parasports. Sometimes good generic conversations lead into this, and you kind of go, okay, well, I'm going to forgo the mainstream sports. Our bread is literally buttered by parasports. Sometimes we will have longer discussions about mainstream sports because something happens that's worth talking about, and there's some shows where I will say, okay, well, I'm going to forgo less parasports. But we believe wholeheartedly, and have for 10 plus years. Cameron's been part of the original panel. We have believed from the beginning of this show that parasports is important, and I think this episode is one of those episodes where it's proof, Cameron, that even though we're not funded under the parasports banner, we're still talking about parasports because we believe strongly in it, Cameron.
Yeah. Whether we get paid or not, we're always going to talk about parasports because we want to shine a light on that. We want more people, more kids to join the leagues, be able to experience that. It's good for confidence. It's good for, exercising. It's great. And yeah, we'll always believe in para sports, and be talking about it. So that's just what we do.
Yeah, agreed. Totally. And to be honest, I like poking fun at all of my panelists, and Claire gave me a perfect opportunity because she was retired and now she's going to go back to World Championships. So there's moments where I can poke fun, and we can all walk away from this recording in 13 minutes and still be friends, because I know she's doing it for the right reasons. But we did have an entire episode on Claire retiring, which I'm not rerunning again when she actually does retire. If you want to go back, I'll point it to you when she retires. We'll put it up again and we'll do it all over. But we'll rack that interview back again when she retires. But Claire, to be fair, I totally understand what it means. It's hard to pull away, and circumstances happen. But he gave me an opportunity to poke a little bit at you for not retiring.
Yeah, guys, I have to tell you that my retirement was 5 months in the making, from working with a writer to telling teammates to talking to coaches. It didn't happen overnight, but it seemed like I was back in a blink of an eye. So it's
was it an April Fool's joke, April 1st, that this happened? Or
man, we I am so excited to go to World Championships, and I'm so proud of the work that have put in and the team has put in the last few months. But I also know that in 3 weeks, I'm back in vacation mode. So I'm going to...
Hey, Brock, have you ever retired and unretired, Brock?
No. I came back for a fun tournament that went totally backwards, but no, once I retired, I said I'm done. But I said the difference is because I think I know where you might be going. I said I was retiring from the national team. I did go back and play with the provincial team, but I did make it clear that I was retiring from the national team. So yes, in theory, I've been back with the provincial team, but I have not been back with the national team, even though many of my teammates have said you should come back, and I answer back with some expletive and say not a chance, and that's where that goes. I go and I commentate provincials and one of their national events, but that's where it begins.
Yeah, I'm just trying to help Claire get a dig on you without her doing it. I'm just trying to defend her, so
that's fine. That's okay. Claire and I will virtually hug it out after we're done this in a few minutes. But I do want to get into a little bit of a mainstream sports discussion. Let me bring you back a few series ago for the Toronto Blue Jays. They played the Colorado Rockies, and the Colorado Rockies have something like a little over 20-some wins. But they scored 45 runs in that series, and they won all of the games by double digits. It was amazing to watch. And some people would say, oh, it's just the Colorado Rockies. They have 20-something wins, and that's what we should have done, which I agree. But I also want to tell you that no other team in MLB this season has beaten a team by scoring 45 runs over 3 games. So my question to you both is, and I'll start with Cameron on this, how would you feel about a mercy rule? And I'm not going to put a caveat of what it has to be, like if it has to be 10, 11. I'm just asking, how would you feel about a mercy rule in baseball? Yay or nay? Cameron, go.
Yeah, I think for the players, for them having to go to the next city if they're off to a city the next day, that would stop the game sooner. And that's what they want to do, is they don't want to have games going on till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. So kind of like the shootout, if you don't score after, 3 or 5 minutes in overtime, you go to the shootout. So I think having a mercy rule, although not perfect, I think that's a good idea, just so the teams can just have more what's the word I'm looking for? More rest or more structure. Because then they know, okay, well, that flight that's leaving at 11 o'clock at night, that's when we're leaving. We're not going to be leaving at 3 o'clock in the morning because we're getting bombed and there's no way we're going to win. But I understand that the person that loves baseball says no way. That's no good. You play the game because maybe they could come back from like 15-0. I don't frickin' think so. But anyways, I can understand the enthusiasts, the old school baseball watchers saying no, but I think it's a good idea.
I completely disagree with you, Cameron. The game isn't going to go any longer than 9 innings if you're losing by that much. And it's so rare that the scoring gap ends up being that much in Major League Baseball. So it's
might be losing
if it was happening more commonly, where we were having these blowout games, maybe. But to me, it's too rare of an occasion for teams to kind of run up the score like that. So, yeah, I wouldn't be on board for it. You're still getting on that plane at 11 o'clock at night because the game's not going to go anywhere.
It's not going to go any more than 9 innings. But if you're scoring 20 runs against the Rockies or whatever, you're not necessarily going to the plane at 11 o'clock, because it might be less than 9 innings or it might be 9 innings, but because of the amount of runs you've scored, it's like a 11, 12, 13, 14 inning game because of how long it takes to get through an inning because you're scoring so many goddamn runs. So,
yeah, I think if I can sort of read into what I got from Claire, just because it was a little bit chopped up, I think what she's implying is that the it's not going to go longer than 9 innings, which theoretically, no, it wouldn't. But Cameron, I think your point is a real good one in that.
The time, though.
The time.
Just because a game's 9 innings doesn't mean that it's not going to go 4 hours.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I think when you score 20 runs in a game and you're scoring, every inning you're scoring 4, you're scoring 5, you're like, that takes time to do that. So I would also disagree with Claire, and I wish she was here to rebuttal or to understand where we're coming from. But yeah, I think there does need to be a mercy rule. And Cameron, I think for me, where I kind of begin to lose a little bit of faith, if you will, is when we start seeing position players pitch. That's where I'm just like, okay, this is not what the game is designed to do. I understand the whole you're saving bullpen arms because you're being blown out, but if we're doing that, then we need to lean towards, we got to do a mercy rule. And I'm not sure what the rule is. I'm not sure if it's 10 runs, 15 runs, if it's so many runs after 7. I don't know, but I do think there needs to be something to make it so that it happens. And yes, I understand Claire's point of it doesn't happen all that often, but man, it happens enough where you can really, blow someone's bullpen for days and days and days, especially when you're starting to use position players. Cameron, what is your thought on position players, by the way?
On position players? As far as them going in the game, and is it that they have to be in for 3 innings, or is that just pitchers?
That's so that's just pitchers. Like when you're a new pitcher, you have to be in for three batters. But position players, I'm not so sure that is the rule for them. But you do see position players. So somebody off the bench might come, a catcher might throw a pitch, and that's where I just stop and go, why is a catcher from the bench now pitching in this baseball game? That's the point where I go, okay, this is not the essence of baseball anymore. And I don't know about you, but after that happens, I'm like, I'm turning it off. I'm
yeah, 100%. Was that the Colorado game where the catcher came in and he threw, or was that a different game?
It was Colorado where the catcher came in.
Yeah, like if you're having to put a catcher in there, like, come on. That's like, you're done. You're conceding defeat if you're putting a catcher in to throw, and if he's never like thrown a bullpen session or whatever in his life, like, come on, give me a break. Like, they were just teeing off on them too. Like, and I like the pitch clock idea because that speeds up the game, and that's what they're trying to do. But yeah, in those 20-0 games, maybe there's a better way to do it. But like, just like in curling, I think from the 7th end onwards, I think that if you're up by 5 or whatever, after the 7th or 8th inning, you can call it.
Yeah, I don't even think there's a specific number that you have to be up by. I think in curling,
there is in curling, or you have to play a certain amount of ends
in order before you can shake hands. Yeah,
before you can shake hands because it's on TV and they want to get the content in, and that makes sense. But whether it's the 7th or the 8th end, like they can say, okay, well, we're not curling well today. We're down by 5, and we only have 2 ends left, shake hands. I think the managers could simply do the same things like curlers do to say, okay, we're down by 20. We don't have it today. Let's shake hands and call it.
Yeah, agreed. And I think for curling, I think they've done it for the reasons of like teams have to play like 9 or 10 games in a 7-day period. So it's like you gotta be at your best, and when you just don't have it, you should shake hands and move on from that. And I think they should take the curling situation. And I think even curling does it right, because if memory serves me correctly, in the round robin games they have to play a minimum of 6 ends, and then in the playoff games they have to play a minimum of 8. And I think baseball could do much the same, where baseball could say, in the regular season you have to play up to say 5, because 5 would be an official game, as they would call it, and then in the playoffs maybe you play 7 or something and call it that way, because to see a position player pitching, that's not what the game is intended to do.
No one wants to see that.
I just think there should be something. And I know that the realists people, the people that really enjoy baseball, will say, don't touch my game. Well, do you really want to see a 20 run blowout by your team? Because even as a Jays fan who's their first in the American League East, I don't want to see that. I have better things to do with what turns out to be 4 hours of my time because they're scoring 20 runs. Like, no thanks, not interested at all. But this episode has not necessarily reached a mercy rule, but we are out of time, so I'm going to
mercy, get me out of here, get me out of here.
We thank Claire and Cameron, as always. We also thank our technical producer, Marco Follow. Stay tuned for next week, because you just never know what happens when you enter the neutral zone. Be safe, be well.